Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're going to talk about a viewer requested topic, SpaceX Spacesuit. So let's dive right into it. Well, first, what the heck we are talking about? We are talking about SpaceX needing a new suit for Dragon 2 because if you watch basically NASA's history or almost any space faring civilization's history, generally each program carries their own suit. For example, Mercury had its own system, Apollo it has their own system, Space Shuttle had their own system. It's generally done this way. So NASA realized that while they made a space shuttle suit and they were effective, they had to be retired and they were very expensive, and not expensive because of government corruption or something like that. It's simply because it's a government organization. It has way too much bloat. Basically, just to change the color of let's say a zipper from orange to white, there would have at least 5 to 10 people have to sign off on that. So that bloat showed NASA that they have inherent limitation. So this time NASA has a completely different kind of a rule. This time it's like, you build it, I'm only going to test it. Before this, NASA also always used contractors and all that, but again they used to control it very tightly. It's like, dude, which thread you are using, which cable you are using, every Tom, Dick and Harry thing they will judge and test. But this time they are like, okay, build whatever you want to build. Once you give us, we're gonna test it. That's it. So we are only a testing authority. We're not gonna help you design or control how you design it. No, we're just gonna test it. If it works, we're gonna approve it. If it does not work, we're gonna send you back to the drawing board. So this way SpaceX got a bit more flexibility compared to all the previous generation. They are like, and not to mention, we have learned so much more also. It's not like, it's engineering's first philosophy. It's like either you build it first or you build it better. Every time you build it something, second time you're like, yeah, dude, I could have done this better or this better, and third time it always happens. That's the point of humanity. So old ones are retired, expensive, so they're like, okay, we're not gonna use that again. There is a new craft, new program, so we're gonna build a completely new suit, and SpaceX will get much more creative control compared to older generation. So you have to understand the philosophy of SpaceX before you understand anything else, because it's a bit more creatively driven and a bit more passionately driven. So it's less utilitarian, more like visually appealing. So they design a bit more effort into it. So basically, it's more close to Apple product than to like, yeah, just put things together and let it work. So they're inspired by Hollywood design. What does that mean? That inherently means there was a dude who built basically space suits for movies. And I'm not joking, like this is actual thing. This actually happened. I provided the video down below where like he designed for Batman, Wonder Woman, all that, like actual costumes, and that has been really used, not just some fan art, actually used by Hollywood. So he designed a rough outline, very rough outline, but Elon Musk liked it. So this time, because of the flexibility afforded to them, they had a bit different kind of approach to it. Basically, the outer shell was selected before the interiors were designed. So they got like, okay, this is our final output, or at least how should we look. Then they started to fill in the blanks, so to say, and they started to use 3D printing on this. Now 3D printing is a recent development, but the primary advantage of that is basically 3D printing is well suited for tailor-made parts and low mass production parts. Basically, if you don't have to make hundreds of them, 3D printer is generally a better way to go. And not to mention, you can iterate in every single design. It's not like a injection molding where you design something and you are stuck with it. So basically, for example, Lego molds, those are multi-million-dollar products, so to say. So 3D printer is much better for that. And then you will always focus, oh, they have gloves that works on touchscreen. I'm like genuinely surprised why the heck people are focusing on that, because you never design a spacecraft with single point of redundancy. You will always design dual redundancy. What does that mean? That means the spacecraft touchscreen would be designed in such a way that if the glove's conductivity layer fails, it will still work. Because again, you can buy ruggedized laptops that have that system. Even using capacitive system, they can detect your finger through a gloves. You will design the touchscreen so it can work that way, and then you will design the glove so it does not need to do that. So you will have dual layers. So if touchscreen loses its sensitivity, it will still work. If the gloves fails, it will still work. It's not that big of a deal. I have no idea why the heck everybody is focusing on that. Like, that's the lowest quality part. Like the fact that they no longer need that bunny cap, that if you are familiar with Apollo era footage, people are wearing this bunny cap. The reason for that, microphones were not that good back there. The signal to noise ratio was not good. However, nowadays we can have like microphones that are like far apart and you still detect your voice clearly while having a background noise. But when you are talking about a spacesuit which is completely sealed and isolated, you don't even need that. So having multiple microphone capsules, not only because we are cheaper, efficient, and much more advanced noise cancellation algorithm, they no longer need to wear that bunny suit. That's not talked about. It's like, oh, that is screen. I'm like, come on, man, like focus on the right thing. So the philosophy is built. Design was selected first, and they wanted to look good. And because it has to be used with a Dragon capsule, the design aesthetic, basically the color aesthetics, followed that. Ideally, you do not want that. Ideally, you want the spacesuit to be orange. I'll explain that. So what about the fit and finish? If you have seen the actual live footage, like when they are walking around and all that, you will notice that their suit look tangibly different. They're like tangibly looks different enough. You're like, dude, are they wearing the same thing? The reason for that, it's tailor-made for astronaut. Now that's not a new thing. It's always been done that way. And we would have this is a kind of limiting factor, because inherently, once you really want to colonize space, you have to reach a point where it's like just order this suit and all that. You do not want tailor-made everything, or you make your tailor-made system so quickly that's like, go into this scanning machine, it will scan you and give you a suit, let's say in 2-3 hours or something like that. We are not there yet, so we have to design this thing tailor-made. And when I say tailor-made, I mean like high quality tailor-made. Basically, if they had to do test fitting, and if they are complaining like, dude, I don't think this elbow joint is working, it's too degrading or something like that, they're like, to scrap the part and rebuild it again. And that's why like this NASA spacesuits can cost upwards of $200 million. So it has to be fine-tuned and tailor-made for the astronauts. On top of that, that's the internal layer. This is what is keeping the person alive. The outside skeleton, so to say, has to be designed in such a way that it works well with Dragon 2, so to say, because this system is, they both are interconnected. This cannot work in a space shuttle. This cannot work in Orion. This cannot work in anything other than this. So they have to have a dual layer competency. Basically, the outside is compensated for this, so it perfectly fits in their chair, their umbilical systems, their electrical systems, and the person fits perfectly inside it. So there is dual layer of connectivity here. So be mindful of that. It's not something that you're like, okay, let's say Blue Origin starts to make their own spacecraft, you can use this. No, it is fine-tuned, tailor-made for this craft itself. Then we come to how the heck it actually works. You have to understand, this was inherently designed to work with basically Dragon Capsule 2, so it's mated for that. And if you have to pay attention to the live streams and all that, you will notice there is a very weird rectangular square hole, so to say, in its basically leg joint. The reason for that, that is the power and gas transmission. Basically, the computers, the life support system are working in the ship. Basically, there is an actual module in the ship that is controlling the oxygen, the humidity, the temperature, every Tom, Dick and Harry things, and not to mention communication. They have dual loop communication to make sure that even if one whole system fails electrically, they will still have a backup. Dual redundancy is there. Nowadays we can do that in like a few microwatts of power, so it's no longer a big deal. So, and that's why the capsule like helmets is also 3D printed, so it can properly accommodate the head. And not to mention, you have to be like this while you are launching, so they have to make sure it's properly comfortable for that, because we are talking high G maneuvers here. So it's perfectly tailor-made to that, and you can easily see the demo. Like while they are doing that, they are sitting in the seat that is exact dicto copy of seat inside the system. So that umbilical is the most important part. And if you pay attention to them, they keep talking about gas transmission. And if you're familiar with spacesuit, you know people use water. Why the heck they are using gas? Gas is good enough. Now, gas does not have the oomph of thermal carrying capacity of water or oil, but it is more than good enough. So they utilize that. And that leg pike is directly connected to the chair has that system and designed in such a way that because the chair has the ability to move up and down, they have a flexible joint on that, so it will not leak or fail. So that's the working of it. They are interconnected with the Dragon capsule. Now this is the one thing that tangibly frustrates me. It's like people keep calling it spacesuit. It's not a spacesuit. What it is, it's what we call in-flight suit or spacesuit. Spacesuit is the wrong thing. Basically, in-flight suit or jumpsuit, so to say, because this is designed in such a way that if you are going up on top of a rocket, you are in orbit, something hits your basically spacecraft, punches a hole, or there is a malfunction in some valve or something like that, and you loses the atmosphere, then you're supposed to connect your basically umbilical and you will be safe. Computer, there is more than enough redundancy in the life support, and lot to mention life support is small enough that there is a very good chance at least one of them will survive. Like there are two independent systems with redundancy and backup and all that, so they will survive. But here's the deal: the system is inherently designed for low term operation, basically low duration operation. What does that mean? It's not designed so you will be sitting inside it for hours and hours or days. For example, this is the suit built for low Earth orbit. It's designed in such a way. Why? Because again, let's say emergency happens. They're like, dude, evacuate right now. Castro syndrome is happening. You have to evacuate ISS. And people like, they are coming out of this and they're like, no, go back. They're like, okay, dude. How long before they reach Earth's atmosphere? 2 hours maximum. Like again, that's a very shrinking margin. Generally they will keep orbiting until they find the perfect landing window, but if they had to do it 2 hours, they can cut down even further than that, but let's go for that. So the suit, in worst case scenario, have to keep them alive for 2 hours. Here's the, this is the jump suit or basically flight suit built for Artemis mission, aka moon mission. Now this puppy is much beefier, much thicker, and it has liquid cooling. Why? This was designed in such a way that in worst case scenario, you did the lunar injection, but basically you cannot turn back the rocket now because you are in ballistic trajectory and something bad happens and your ship loses loses pressure. This system is designed to keep the astronaut alive for 7 days upwards of. So again, much beefier built. It had to be, so it can handle astronaut for that long of a duration. And this is the actual spacesuit for Artemis mission. This has the backup system. Basically, backup would be wrong word. Backpack it has. Why is that important? That makes it independent. Basically, this system, if you can design a chair for it, which simply means it has to have a big bump in the back, done. It will work in basically every spacecraft there is, because it's a proper spacesuit. These are not. These are vehicle suit, spacesuit, vehicle suit, spacesuit. Be mindful of that. So this is the reason. This is the new design that they are building, so they can actually do lunar missions properly. With they learned a lot from Apollo missions, so this time they have refined the design, and they can actually walk to and all that. And ball bearing joints have been used. The joints are ludicrously expensive. Like if you see the machine joints, they are doing wow. And this is not a spacesuit. The moment you pull this outside of, let's say, Dragon capsule, even with umbilical, because if you are familiar with old Mercury product, that's what they had. They had umbilical. If you did that, let's say you extended the umbilical, here's the deal. This will overheat. It's inherently not designed with the micro armor that these puppies are. Basically, it's designed in such a way that micro meteorites will not destroy it. It does not have that armor. Does not have the thermal capacity where it will go through the sunlight and shadow again and again and still keep the astronaut cool enough. Basically, it's not built for that. It's designed in such a way that if Dragon capsule's internal air pressurization fails, this will keep the astronauts happy, alive for 2 hours, and they will make sure it will come back to Earth safely. This puppy has to do that. Keep the astronaut alive, not happy because they have to poop in the same suit for 7 days, but again, at least alive enough, and then they will land. This puppy is designed to keep the same thing, working in outside environment where they have to go to almost absolute zero in during South Pole. So be mindful. This is not a space suit. This is a vehicle suit. It only works in one area, and that's inside the spacecraft suit. So be mindful of that. Now, I hope you liked it, learned from it in that way. Please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I'd urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment, and please leave a comment because I try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.